Let's bring in former Washington, D.C. homicide detective and Fox News contributor Rod Wheeler. Rod, thanks so much for being with us. Your reaction this morning?
Absolutely. I've been following this story all night long, and it's really interesting how it's starting to develop in terms of what's going on with the investigation now. Now, just so that the viewers know, the police were able to actually make an arrest of 3 individuals, a woman and 2 other individuals, 2 guys. And what they're doing, they're interviewing them now to try to find out who was behind this attack, what role did they play in this attack, and whether or not there's any other planned attacks here in the United States. Now, I just learned from some law enforcement colleagues in Washington that most police departments in the U.S. are on high alert as a result of that incident last night. Now, they have already been on high alert, but I'll submit to you that they're on extra high alert this morning, Maria.
Yeah, and we've been talking this morning, Rod, about the changing tactics that police have been taking on because of the so-called Ferguson effect.
That's right, and we're going to continue to see that. You know, police departments, police officers evolve as the situation evolves, and that's just something that we normally do, and we're going to have to do that now. We're going to definitely have to ride 2- 3-man cars depending upon the area that we're in. We are more of a target now. And the other thing that I was listening to Steve Rogers talk earlier, and he was 100% correct when he was saying that this has some of the trappings of a terrorist attack or a group that's organized like ISIS or somebody like that, because you cannot conduct this type of attack against police officers within by planning it within 24 to 48 hours. This takes extensive amounts of time, so I think that's another area that the law enforcement agencies are definitely going to be looking at.
Hey, Rod, Steve here, and thanks for your service, my friend. Rod,
sure.
To the issue of leadership, if you could discuss that with us a minute. We're hearing from police officers around the country and the civilians, both the minority communities and other communities, that we're without a leader. We're without leaders who are standing up for law enforcement and what is right in the criminal justice system.
Right, and you know what, we do have leaders, Steve. Kelly Wright and I from Fox News talked about this extensively this morning. We have a lot of leaders, but I think, unfortunately, some of our young African-American males, they are following the wrong leaders. We have clergy people and just people in the community that's doing a lot of things, mentors, but we just have to kind of refocus our attention on them, and hopefully they will recognize that there are people in the communities that, that does respect them as long as they respect themselves.
Well, Maria, as we said earlier, as Rod's point, Chief Brown, he's one of those leaders from the African-American community that we could point to as a role model.
That's right, and Chief Brown said that he believes 4 suspects coordinated the attack with rifles and positioned themselves in triangulated locations near the end of the route that the protesters planned to take. The police had 3 people in custody. They were initially negotiating with that 4th suspect who ended up killing himself in the garage in downtown Dallas. Dagan.
Rod, you mentioned that attack like this takes time. The planning of it would take time. What about the training that it would require to execute something like this?
Oh, absolutely, and you can tell just from looking at the video, especially law enforcement folks, we can tell that these individuals had proper training to some degree because they knew exactly where their targets were, they knew how to hit their targets, and the fact that they even came wearing body armor tells me that they've been somewhere practicing. We know that the threat has changed in this country over the past few years. Law enforcement is changing with that threat. We're ready to deal with it, but I think the community has really got to stand behind our law enforcement and give us the support we need to eradicate that threat.
Now, at the beginning of the interview, Rod, you said that we're just not getting the cooperation that the police would like. The 3 suspects are a woman who was taken from the garage. The 2 others were taken in for questioning after a traffic stop. But you're right, Chief Brown is saying we want to know more, and we're not getting the cooperation to know that the answer of why, the motivation, who they are from these 3 suspects in custody.
That's right. And you know what, Maria, see, that goes again to what Steve and I have been talking about as far as this may be related to terrorist groups. Because terrorist groups like ISIS, they're not going to talk at all. If these were just 3 regular, suspects in a shooting or whatever, we could get them to talk. But these folks aren't talking. Again, I think these people are trained. They were orchestrated. They were calculated. And just like President Obama said, it was a despicable act that they did. We need to find out everything we can about these people and snip it in the bud if anything else is being planned.
You know, Chief Brown said, Steve, that they plan to, quote, injure and kill as many law enforcement officers as they could. So, I mean, they're targeting law enforcement right now. That's not something that ISIS has been doing.
They are targeting the first line of defense to the people in this country.
Okay.
And that's important. To Rod's point, military combatant, that's who we're dealing
So
with.
you're not going to write off ISIS?
Absolutely not.
What about you, Rod?
No.
Oh, absolutely not. No, I think ISIS may have something to do with this. If, at the very least, Maria, they were inspired by a group such as
Exactly.
ISIS. Time will tell. We don't want to speculate too much in this situation.
That's right.
This investigation is still very fluid. Let's see what comes out of it. But at the same time, all of us Americans need to come together, be vigilant, support our law enforcement. Let's get rid of the rogue cops that's out there making a bad name for all of us good guys, and let's take this country forward.
The police said that 4 of the dead officers were Dallas police officers. 1 was from the Dallas Area Rapid Transit Force, or DART, and he was identified as Brent Thompson, 43, joining DART in 2009, first officer to be killed in the line of duty.
We have heard from Donald Trump on Twitter this morning, and I think that in a very measured statement, he expresses how every American feels this morning. Prayers and condolences to all of the families who are so thoroughly devastated by the horrors we are all watching take place in our country. That's it.
Rod Wheeler, thanks very much for weighing in this morning. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Take care, guys.
Thank you, Rod.